Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Rachel, and in today's video we're going to do a walkthrough of a Singapore Math Dimensions Level 3B. So here we have the textbook, the workbook, and then this is the teacher's guide. We're going to start by looking at the teacher's guide for Level 3B. There's also a home instructor's guide that's a little different, but this is the teacher's guide. This is more for either homeschoolers or teachers in the classroom. So this is the contents of this curriculum. This is level 3B, so this is the second semester. 3A would be the first semester. That's why it starts at chapter 8. So chapter 8 goes into multiplying and dividing with 6, 7, 8, and 9. And here are all the lessons laid out for you that you can see. Then we have chapter 9, which is fractions part 1. Again, all the lessons are laid out pretty simply. Over here we have chapter 10, which is fractions part 2. Chapter 11 is measurement. Chapter 12 is geometry. Chapter 13 is area and perimeter. And we have a little friend here visiting. We have chapter 14, which is time, and chapter 15, which is money. And here is some information on what makes Dimensions by Singapore so special in my opinion. This is the approach and methodology they take, and they use through concrete, pictorial, then abstract. So it starts out very concrete, then it goes to pictures, and then it goes to abstracts, learning within each chapter. And I'll show you more as we flip through this. But yeah, you can take a look at that. And then this is also the Singapore mathematics framework. So it uses metacognition, which is thinking about thinking, process, concepts, skills, and our attitudes and beliefs about math. Here are the program materials. We have the textbooks, the workbooks, the teacher's guides, and then the tests. And I'll show you everything except the tests because we don't use those in our homeschool. And these 5 individuals are kind of the students that go along and help teach you throughout this curriculum. And I've used this curriculum since the PK level, and they've started out at the PK level, and now we're at the 3 level. So it's fun to see them grow. Okay, we have some online resources as well. We have Blackline Masters, which you can find on the Singapore website, which are like printable handouts and basically centers you can make for your child. This is, I would recommend for teachers in a big classroom if they need centers. Also, we have a material list that can be found on the website, more activities, and then the standard alignments for various dates. This is how to use the teacher's guide. Every chapter does have an overview. It has our notes and the materials that I'll get into for every chapter. And then for every lesson, there will be a chapter opener, a think, learn, do, activities, and then brain work. And these little symbols are very important because the circle means those are foundation activities, the triangle are on level activities, and the star is challenging or extension activities. This is the Dimensions Math Scope and Sequence all the way to PKA. So if you ever want to look at what is in a certain level, it has all levels from PKA up to 5B. So here's for PKA, PKB, KA, KB, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, which we are on, 4A, 5B, I'm sorry, 4B, silly me. This is 5A, and this is 5B. So in every single teacher manual, you will have the entire scope and sequence of Singapore dimensions from the PKA all the way up to the 5B, which I think is very handy in seeing what exactly is in which level. Okay, so now we're on to chapter 8. Like I said, it starts with chapter 8 because this is the continuation of 3A. 3A was fall semester, 3B, which we're in, is spring semester. So we have, this is our overview. So chapter 8, multiplying and dividing with 6, 7, 8, and 9. And this is the overview. So this has what every lesson will be. There's 10 lessons. There's a chapter opener, which I couple in with lesson 1, and it has these 10 lessons. And then the workbook solutions are this is for the teacher to make sure their solutions are done properly in the workbook 3B. And again, it goes into great detail of what you will be teaching and more specifically what the child should be learning from these lessons. Okay, for example, it says students will apply learned facts for 6, 7, 8, and 9 to the multiplication and division algorithms. So this really tells you what the child should be learning and what you should be teaching. So this is your material list of everything you'll need for this chapter. These are the black line masters you could print off from the Singapore Dimensions website as extra practice for your individual homeschool child, or if you're a teacher in a classroom, these would be great centers. And then there are activities. Okay, let's get into what an actual lesson would be for a child. So this would be the chapter opener. This page corresponds with the child's textbook. Okay, and I'll show you guys what is in the 3B textbook, but I want to get through a chapter first in this. So here we have the chapter 8 opener, and it says exactly what to do, that we're having students complete the facts that they already know on the multiplication chart. This can be printed from the Blackline Master, see BLM Blackline Master, and discuss patterns on the chart that they find. And then have students think about how to apply strategies they already know to learn the facts that they do not know. So again, thinking about thinking, that metacognition. So that's the chapter opener. I usually combine this with lesson 1. Now, lesson 1, again, these pages are in the textbook. Okay, these correspond with what the children are going to be seeing in their textbook. So we have in this box, this is for the teacher, we have the objective for the lesson. We have the lesson materials we will need. And then for us as the teacher, we're first going to pose the think problem. Okay, and we might need to bring out the array dot cards, which are found in those Blackline Masters, which you'll already have printed out from Singapore Dimensions math website. So we do this problem right here, we figure out, and our little friends have good little comment boxes that, again, you get to think about thinking. They have some good questions to ask. And then we will hand out a multiplication chart, and we will discuss Alex's comment and patterns that the student noticed. Going from think, we're going to the learning section. We're going to have the students compare the products and equations on their charts with the chart shown under the learn header. Okay, and then we're just going to go one by one and complete these equations, and we're also going to learn and discuss what Sophia and May are saying in the little boxes. Going on from that, for a lesson, we continue with the multiplication strategies. We're looking at more dot arrays here. Again, more dot arrays. We're really now on the do section. I should have said that. We're on the do section. And for each number, it corresponds here in case if your child needs any more assistance, it has some good teacher strategies that can kind of, you as the teacher can walk through with the child if they are struggling to understand a concept. So we have more dot arrays, and then we get to actual equations. And over here is our last page. Again, more equations that they'll have to complete for multiplication and also division. Okay, so that is one lesson. I know that's a lot. So that's one lesson from the textbook. But it has those centers we talked about. So here are like the activities that you could do. For this lesson, you could do a multiplication wheel. This has that triangle I spoke about. That triangle corresponds back to what I was saying in the activities, that the triangle is an on-level activity, okay? So this is one activity that you could do with a child. I don't normally do all the activities, honestly, because we just don't have enough time in our day as a homeschool family, because I'm teaching 2 different levels of this. It's just not something we do every single day. Some days we do, some days we don't. So that was one lesson. And honestly, sometimes these lessons take 2 days, and it's okay. Okay, on to lesson 2. Again, we have the objective, the lesson materials, think, learn, do, and then 2 more pages. And then I didn't mention down here is at the bottom of every last page of a lesson, it says exercise 2, page 4. That corresponds to the students' workbook pages. What workbook page they should be doing for that level. Okay, but again, activities, you'll see we got more triangles, so that is on grade level for this lesson. And I'm just gonna go through this chapter, showing you more information, because I think I've explained it. If I did not explain it all the way, please leave any questions you have in the comments below, because it is a curriculum that can be difficult to understand if you haven't taught it before. So please leave any of your questions in the comments. Okay, so this is lesson 7, multiplication table of 9. Lesson 8 is multiplying by 8 and 9. Lesson 9 is dividing by 8 and 9. And then we have our lesson 10, which is practice B. Okay, and then we get into our workbook page answers. So these pages, when they're in gray, those are the workbook pages. So pages 1 to 3, those are this is your answer key for this. Okay, so I'll go through. They have answer keys, which is very nice to have answer keys too, so you're not, as the teacher, having to do it all in your head at 1,000,000 miles a minute. It's nice to have the answer key. Okay, so that was the first chapter, chapter 8. Now, one thing I love about Singapore math is that you can see it's color coded. So every chapter has its own color, and it corresponds with the child's as well. You can kind of see the colors. So that is actually really nice to have. It's the color coding. Okay, so we know that we saw that chapter 8 was all about multiplying and dividing, and I walked you through that first lesson pretty in depth, and then I just did a quick run through of those lessons and the workbook solutions. Now I'm just going to go to every single chapter and show you the overview. So this is for fractions, part 1, chapter 9. And next we have, so we go from brown to pink. Chapter 10 is fractions, part 2. Again, these are all the lessons, so you can look at that to your desire. And then we have the orange chapter coming up next, which is chapter 11, measurement. What I will say about Singapore math is that it does do both the metric system and the American system, but it teaches first the metric system, which is actually really, really nice. Oh, and I'm looking right now and it doesn't, I think this is all metric this time. Okay, so I will say in level 2, it's either a level 2A, yeah, it's level 2A, that it had both the metric version and the American version, so like feet and inches, but it started teaching in level 2A with the metric system, which I thought was very good, because if you are going to go into the scientific field, you need to know the metric system. You need that system. Okay, chapter 12 is geometry. Again, I'll let you look at those lessons and the objectives. Chapter 13 is going to be area and perimeter. And chapter 14 is time. And this is nice. We're going to get to start calculating time. That's nice. So addition and subtraction of time. That's nice. In previous chapters, or I'm sorry, in previous levels, we've learned how to tell time, and now we get to add and calculate time. That's great. Okay. Chapter 15 is money. And then I believe this is the last chapter. Also, throughout the course, there are practice lessons, and also there's review lessons. So review 5 is, I believe, the last lesson. So there's been 5 reviews throughout this curriculum, starting with 3A and finishing out with 3B. There'll be 5 review lessons. Okay, yep, that was the end of it. Okay, so that is the teacher manual for level 3B. Now I will show you that first chapter in the child's textbook for 3B. These are the same chapters you saw in the teacher's manual, okay? So chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Same chapters. And those little pages, this is what the child is seeing. So we see the little page, but they see the nice big page, okay? So chapter 8, this is what the child will be seeing. So that's the chapter opener. You can do this in one day, or you can combine it with lesson 1. This actually looks pretty complicated for a chapter opener, so I would probably do this just one day. Okay, and then this is officially lesson 1. So it has answers for you so that the child kind of understands what's happening. So you as the teacher, it's nice because Singapore does some of the work, the teaching work for you with our friends here. Okay. So that's what the child is seeing. The boxes, I will say, can be kind of small for my son. He is on the younger side of 3rd grade, so the boxes can be a little small sometimes. They were definitely small in 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B. So I will say that. Okay. This is what the child is seeing. Again, so they'll do the think, then they'll do the learning. So they're learning how to multiplication with regrouping. Okay. Some problems here, some more problems here. They will have to have a separate notebook to do these problems. There is not enough room in this textbook to do that problem. They will need a separate notebook to do the problems, okay? Same here, they'll need a separate notebook to transcribe the work that they need to, whatever equation that they need to make. And then, so this is the textbook, and then see down here it has what exercise they'll be doing and what page number in their workbook. So this is for the workbook. And my child typically does the workbook pages on his own independently. Okay. So they're learning how to regroup. Love that. So we have practice A. We have a practice for this chapter. This curriculum is definitely a mastery with spiral. So it has you master the curriculum while at the same time spiraling with all those reviews. My camera stopped recording, so I think I left off here at lesson 8. Here we have lesson 9, going through more regrouping for dividing by 8 and 9. And then we have practice B, okay? And these are good because it is a spiral approach, but also a mastery approach. So we have lots of mastery for multiplication and division here. And again, word problems here. And I believe these are all to master multiplication and division. So this curriculum is a mastery approach, but is also, it does have spiral throughout the later chapters. So this would be the textbook chapter 9, and this is the brown chapter, and all of them have colors like I showed earlier, which is nice. So you can pretty much remember that, oh, I'm on the yellow today, or I'm on the orange. Okay, so see the colors, nice, bright and colorful. So that is the child's textbook. Now we're going on to the child's workbook. So you have the textbook that you teach with the child, and then I have, after the lesson, I send my child to do his workbook pages on his own. So the workbook pages, they are black and white. So they're not as pretty, not as fun, not as engaging, but you know what? That's okay. Not everything has to be bright and colorful. Sometimes black and white will be fine. It always doesn't have to be totally immersive for the child to learn. Sometimes black and white gets the job done. So we have the same chapters as in our teacher manual and our textbook. Okay, so chapters 8 through 15. And so this would be chapter 8, exercise 1. So this corresponds with that lesson 1. And this, my child would be doing on his own. This is independent work. And I did say this is a spiral approach. So look, I found a cheeky addition problem right down there and right there. Okay, that's some good practice. And again, your child will need their own notebook, because this is not enough room sometimes to do the problems. Sometimes you need a notebook to transcribe the problems. Okay, now the challenges, a lot of the time my child has to ask me for help with the challenges. The challenges are very challenging, I will say that. When he gets a challenge on his own, he is just the happiest little boy. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you what's chapter 8 workbook pages. So it's a good variety. Has word problems, but it does just have straightforward problems. This is nice. This does have plenty of room to do. Sometimes there is not enough room. I'll try to find an example. More word problems challenge, some equations. Like here, that's not enough room to do some of these equations. He might have to transcribe it into his notebook. Okay. And these are always fun. My child always wants to figure out what the joke or what the question is. Okay, we are coming close to the end of chapter 8, because this is practice B. It also has all of the lessons written at the bottom. Okay, so that was a whole chapter. This does not have the beautiful color coding, so is what it is with that. But there you go. That is the workbook for 3B. So you guys, please let me know in the comments what questions you have for Singapore Dimensions Level 3B, because this is a pretty intensive teacher curriculum. It's intensive for the teacher, but then I do think it has great payoff for the child in learning these math concepts. So yeah, leave any comments, questions below in the comments, please. All right, I hope you enjoyed this flip through of Singapore Dimensions Level 3B, and I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. Thanks for watching. Bye.